Hi everyone. Sorry, this is really unorthodox. Welcome to class. I feel like a really bad YouTuber from like the 90s or early, or not 90s, early 2000s. Um, so this is how we're going to have class from now on. I will record my lectures and post them online, and then you'll be able to access them for the exam to go through. You don't have to use these videos. They're designed to help you, as if this were an in-person class. But feel free to just look at the slides if that's what helps you. Little difference, I'm going to be video recording from my house. So as you can see, I've got this lovely tapestry behind me, and I look like a potato, and it's basically what it's going to be like for the rest of the semester. I'm really sorry about that. I had hoped that I would be able to, start face-to-face again, and unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. So just know that if you need anything, we can use Zoom to video chat. Google Hangouts works as well. If you've got some questions that are going to require a little bit more than just an email to understand. I have already used it with a student and it went great. So yeah, just let me know if you need to chat, and I will be happy to help with anything. So we're going to finish up health comm and policy. It seems like forever ago that we started this. Make sure that you understand deductible premiums, the insurance basics, these basic terms, the ins and outs of that, because you will have to use that for the exam. On Thursday, we're supposed to have an exam review, so I will send out an email about, Skyping in. I'll create a poll, and we can Skype in at a time that works for majority of you. I'll put our regular class time on there, but I know with you doing all of your classes online, it might not be an option. So, we'll get it figured out. And then also put on there, like, I will not attend. If you know you are not going to attend an online review session, then be honest. It's going to be anonymous. I'm not going to say like, oh, whoever said that they couldn't attend or they wouldn't attend. um so I'll try to plan to do that for Thursday, and then we'll get a time set up. So make sure you know all that. Also with the exam, and I'll talk about this, I guess, I'll email it just in case you don't watch these videos. Talking about the exam, you need to download the documents that are at the back of the, what do you call that? Study guide. You'll need those for the exam because there are questions about how much would you pay. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So moving forward, we've talked about, Medicare a little bit, that's for people 65 and older, but we didn't really get into Medicaid, which is something different, even though a lot of people typically think that they're one thing. So with Medicaid, there's work requirements, and there are new requirements for legal immigrants for Medicaid as well. If you've ever used Medicaid to get assistance when you couldn't work or you weren't making enough money, Medicaid might be something that you check into. Another thing that I've personally dealt with Medicaid, with my hospital bills, my parents were helping me pay on them, but right now my mom is going through cancer treatments, and as you can imagine, they're very expensive. And so she's not paying on my medical bills for me anymore. I was instructed by the hospital to apply for assistance because I'm a student. After I pay my bills, I have probably $100 left to last me 2 weeks. And that has to buy my necessities. So food, things like toilet paper when it's on the shelves, things like that. So I don't have any money. And I got my letter the other day, and I was actually denied assistance because I make too much money. Don't know how that's possible, but that is kind of the side about Medicaid that we hear about a lot. But Medicaid can help a lot too. So right now I'm not very happy, with that. Thankfully, Rich has helped me out, but you know, Medicaid can do really good things for people who really need the assistance. So Medicaid is federal state joint insurance program, and it is for disadvantaged Americans. So it's for people who don't make enough money. You would think that as a doc student who I'm not allowed to work outside the program and I only get paid the minimum they have to pay me, you know, you'd think that I would get it, and I didn't. Sorry, I'm done ranting about that. I'm very angry though still. So it is all ages are open to apply. All resources are sufficient to pay for healthcare. So it's not just you have to be 65. Um, it talks about, anybody can apply. So I'm 27, I was able to apply. If my mom needed assistance with hers, now hers would be different than what I paid for because it is federal state. So there are some differences in state a little bit. But what she would apply for, she would be able to apply she just turned 52. So the states do provide up to half of the funding. That doesn't mean that you're going to get half of the funding right then and there, but they do provide up to half. Ugh, I hate these recording lectures because I feel like how I have to have my computer, I've got like 4 chins. I don't like that. And then there's an expansion of eligibility through the PPACA, which is the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. So the states had to accept that. They didn't have a choice in that. So moving forward, and if you're following along on the slides that had been posted earlier in the semester, this would be slides like 16, 17, where we started. I did not recover all the information we've already covered. You should have that in your notes. If you have questions about it, please ask, but I'm not going to record that information again, only because that could be a really long video and I don't want to have to deal with that. So the Medicaid expansion said we're going to adjust Medicaid eligibility to 138% of the federal poverty level in any state that accepts. Okay? So $17,236 for one person in 2019. Okay. And then you have FPL for one is 12,000, a little over, and family of 4 is almost 26,000. Okay. And so this Medicaid expansion, and FPL is federal poverty level. So, if you're at the federal poverty level, they're going to pay up to 12,000, a little bit over 12,000 for your person, because they offer up to 17,000, right? Family of 4, they'd almost cover the entire bill. And so this is compared to about 43%, so about 8,000 or about 9,000 for families only, right? So there was this expansion that really helped a lot of people. So the gap in coverage for adults in states that do not expand Medicaid under the ACA, okay? So there's marketplace subsidies. I'm sorry, my text is a little small. So 100%, 12,140 for one person, right? Um, marketplace subsidies, sorry, 400% um, federal poverty level increase. So they would pay 48,560, I believe, for an individual. With Medicaid, oh my gosh, childless adults, um, it was limited to specific low-income groups. So federal poverty level as 0% for childless adults, um, or 43% federal poverty level for parents in a family of 3. So having mom, dad, and 1 child, or maybe mom and 2 children, or dad and 2 children. So the median Medicaid eligibility limits as of January 2018, right? So even those with um, low income, if they didn't meet these eligibility requirements, they didn't get the help or the coverage that they needed. So I fell under the, childless adults. So it didn't matter that I, don't make a lot of money. I have to pay rent, food, bills, car payment, all of that. What mattered is I was a childless adult. It's interesting to see. So the Medicaid work requirement is a new issue or a current issue in health policy. So response to the Medicaid expansion, it required Medicaid patients to work or volunteer. So assistance was provided for states to apply for work requirements in 2019. Okay, so if you got hurt on the job or not on the job, if you got hurt and could not be back on the job, you had to go out and volunteer in order to get Medicaid. If you were having trouble paying on a hospital bill, say it was something like bronchitis, you might be out of work for like a week or 2 at most. You were expected to be back to work and to volunteer in order to get Medicaid. So proponents believe that those on Medicaid need motivation to get off Medicaid. This is trying to help the state improve those who enroll in Medicaid and incentivize them to work and engage in the community. Because, everybody who uses government assistance just wants to, sorry, that's an argument for a different day. But that's basically the thought that, once they get on this government assistance program, they are never going to want to get off. There are many people who use Medicaid to pay off a bill or to get assistance paying on a large doctor's bill, and then they're just done with it. They don't need it. They recognize this. So employment is expected to lift them out of poverty, engage contacts and connects them with the community, right? So like I said, Medicaid work requirement is basically saying that once you start using the system, you don't care to get off of it. So with the Medicaid work requirement, over 60% of adults on Medicaid already worked part-time or full-time, right? So using myself as an example, technically I am considered part-time because I'm working 20 hours a week as your instructor. 20 hours a week at least. It's usually more, but 20 hours a week are dedicated to prepping lecture, putting lecture together, teaching, office hours, all of that. I fall within that 60% of adults who are working part-time or full-time. Okay. Most who do not work cite illness or disability And that limits their, or completely takes them out of the work requirement. Because if you have a disability that makes it so you cannot work, then you know it's not fair to say no, you can't get coverage because you don't work. Okay. um but certain jobs actually make it, or make you ineligible in certain states for the expansion, or without the expansion, right? So, depending on the type of work you do, you might be denied assistance or coverage because they don't have the expansion and you work a job that is not permitted. So, sorry. This turns back into a system that operates under welfare rules, right? So, we all know people who use the welfare system, and that is, it's not a bad thing. There are people who really need that program. But we start operating under those rules, and that creates problems because some people are getting money because their state's in the expansion, some people aren't because their state's not. And that creates a lot of problems. Okay. So with the Medicaid work requirement, those who are already working part-time or full-time tend to be healthier, right? So they may not be using the the expansion or Medicaid as much. Um, Typically, those who already work have worked, or usually work at least 35 hours per week at one or multiple jobs. They do not have access to employer-based insurance. So, um, I use myself as an example a lot for this because this is literally what I've been going through. Um, my boyfriend works at Mylan. He's got really good insurance. If he goes to the doctor, it's pretty much covered because he's got the insurance. I work for the university, but I'm a doc student. So I don't have the same insurance that our professors have. You know, they get health insurance. I'm on student health insurance. And for those of you, thankfully, most of you are not, because this is the worst health insurance I've ever been on. And I mean, back when I was younger, my parents worked, my dad worked at a factory, and my mom, I think, worked at a hotel, right? So, like, didn't have good insurance, and this is worse, right? So, with the Medicaid work requirements, even those who are working, we don't have access to employer based. Maybe it's because we haven't been there long enough. Maybe it's because we don't work that many hours. They'll give you just enough hours to keep you out of that assistance program. And those who work face not being eligible for Medicaid if they're in a state without the expansion. So they fall into this coverage gap, right? From the picture a couple slides ago. So, certain states don't offer this expansion, and that's a problem. Sorry. So, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, the public perception of the Medicaid work requirements are mixed. Some say it's good, and this starts bringing in that, oh, it's good because um, people aren't just abusing the system. Some say it's bad because, well, I'm in a job that doesn't even have the expansion, and that job makes me ineligible for this coverage anyway, right? So it's kind of mixed. 41% say it's to reduce government spending. Um, so this work requirement, you know, I'm not helping people, or the government's not helping people who can't work or won't attempt to help themselves. So Democrats, independents, and a large share of Republicans see this. Like, I'm not helping you if you're not going to help yourself. but 33% say it's to lift people out of poverty. So I'm helping you out with this coverage. It's to lift you out of poverty. And most Republicans see it this way. So in the Medicaid in West Virginia, if you slide down to the notes section, there are some different links that you can follow. I'm not going to go through them on here, but follow through them, take a look at them to understand this state, because I know not all of you are residents of West Virginia, but this is the state that we're currently in right now. So WV, West Virginia, opted in and expanded in 2014. Most who are eligible have jobs, but they don't have the employee-sponsored insurance option. Okay. The highest proportion of state population is enrolled in Medicaid. So that's showing that there are a lot of people in the state using this program and using the expansion. However, about 74% of enrollees who are using Medicaid are children. 61% of spending does go to the elderly and persons with disabilities, though. Okay, so and 22% of West Virginia Medicare enrollees were also on Medicaid, right? So just an idea, my brother, this is back in Illinois, so it's a little different, but still applies. He is, oh God, what does my brother do? He's a realtor. Sorry, I couldn't think of that word. So he sells houses, but he's not eligible for an employer-sponsored insurance option. So him, his girlfriend, and their daughter are on Medicaid or Medicare. They're on Medicare, sorry. So my niece would fall into this. She's an enrollee, she's a child. She doesn't use her Medicare card or Medicaid card often. She is one of the few percentages that is also on Medicaid because my niece was born with a kidney issue. She was born with a dead kidney. And so when she does have problems, like the first month of her life, she was in the children's hospital, right? So when she does have issues, then the bills are really, really expensive. So they need the extra help. So she is one that is enrolled in both. But my brother is in Medicare. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I keep yawning. Right? So it's similar. And we probably all know somebody who has a Medicare and or Medicaid card. But in West Virginia, most of the people who are enrolled in this program are children, but the spending doesn't go to them because they may not need it. But about 22%, so about a quarter of them, are also enrolled in Medicaid. So in West Virginia, a bill for the Medicaid work requirement was being worked on, but it was voted down. So people in the state of West Virginia do not have a Medicaid work requirement because a lot of people understand that, making somebody work isn't going to cause them to want to get off the system or to stop using it, right? A lot of people use the system because they have to, and then they get off when they can. So right now, we don't have a Medicaid work requirement in West Virginia. Health insurance and immigration, there was a public charge rule, and this rule basically stated that they can deny entrance or adjustment to legal permanent resident status if they are deemed to be a public charge. And there's more on the, if you go to the notes section, there's links for this as well. Okay. So this would have prevented immigrants from receiving a green card, so legal permanent residency, if they had accepted public assistance. So immigrants who come here for a better life, more job opportunity than maybe they'd experienced, they could not get a green card, a legal permanent resident status, if they had gotten on Medicaid. Just think about how ridiculous this sounds. And then I believe it was New York, and this is not last month, it was a couple months ago. But a New York judge blocked that public charge rule. Several judges have been doing that since, right? Like, that's something that we realize this is not good. This is a bad idea. So now, with health insurance and immigration, they're suspending entry for immigrants without health insurance coverage. So if you are trying to come here from another country and you are seeking legal immigration, you have to prove that you're going to get insurance within 30 days of entry. How ridiculous is that? Because we know that the government, for issues like this, they're not in any hurry to help anybody, right? So with my health insurance bill, and not that I'm an immigrant, but with my health insurance or my health hospital bill, it was $1,074. I applied, my bill's always due on the 11th. I applied February 11th. February 11th for Medicaid. I did not get hearing back until March 19th. And I check my mail every single day. Did not get, and all I got was a denied word. So what did that do for my bill? It went up $250 or $220. Couldn't afford it before, but hey, let's tack on $200 more because that's what we should be doing, right? Like, if it's that difficult for a citizen of the United States, we expect immigrants to just get in and go right through. Like, it doesn't work that way. They also state that legal immigrants or anyone seeking legal immigrants could use employer-based plans through the Affordable Care Act marketplace and short-term plans. So it could be something where I'm going to have this for 6 months until I get the job that I'm waiting on or whatever. Or if you don't want to do any of those options, if you have financial resources for reasonably foreseeable medical costs. So what that means is you've got enough money in the bank to cover these reasonably foreseeable medical costs. You're supposed to know, like, I've got enough to cover if I were to get pneumonia or if I got coronavirus and had to go to the hospital. You have to have the money in the bank for that. This was blocked, again, this is a little off right here. This was blocked by a federal judge a little while ago. It's not fair. So the reason we talk about health policy and health communication is this is an election year. You are all able to vote. Some of you, this might be your first experience voting. You need to be aware because this is going to impact you. Maybe not with this next president, or maybe with him or her. Being 22, 4 years, the end of that term could impact you. Or maybe you're 23, you're going to be impacted, right? So we're only on parents' insurance for a while. And with all these health policies and all these rules and regulations, you need to know what's going on. Even if this wasn't an election year, you need to know, how are you able to get health insurance? How are you able to you know, cover things. How are you supposed to pay? What are you supposed to pay? And how much is available to you, right? So it's very important to know and to talk about and to educate people because health policy, health insurance is one of those topics that it gets really, really messy really quick. A lot of people don't know anything about it. So it is important to know about it and look for candidates in election years who are actually going to do something positive with health insurance. That was a soapbox. Thanks for listening. But it is a very important topic. So that's where this lecture is going to end. Um, if you have any questions, please reach out. Let me know. All right. All right. I will see you for the next video.